All right, everybody, welcome back to the Pipeline Power podcast powered by RevSurge AI. I am your host, Austin Montero, and joining me today is Chris Bush, founder and CEO of Maestro. Chris, how are we doing today, my friend?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
You
Appreciate it.
got it. Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it. And I know we all have busy lives, and I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk to us. So let's dive in. Can you share a little bit about your role and how it fits into the bigger picture at Maestro?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost you for 2 seconds. Can you repeat yourself?
Sure. Sorry. Yeah. Wanted to real brief. I'll edit that part out. But can you share, Chris, your a bit about your role and how it fits into the bigger picture at your company?
Absolutely. Yeah. But I've been with Maestro basically. We started this company about 6 years ago, and it came down to really unifying data, right? And then once you unify data, what do you do with it next? And so my co-founder Yancey and myself have been at this journey for a while, and we kind of got to a point where once we unified data, but when we realized the context is there and what you can do with it, we started seeing that if you just start building agents and everything else, you're giving away what really comes down to what is human intellect, right? And how you interact and everything else. And everyone in the markets are focused on data as a moat. And what they're not realizing is it's what you do with it is the value and actually what makes the money from a standpoint of how it's applicable to the business. And so that journey brought us into understanding that the way that humans interact with AI needs to be protected from the standpoint of their value, so that way they're not being replaced.
Right. Right. What are you guys seeing around that particular question or particular challenge?
Well, I think it actually goes to the root of what we're kind of talking about here is like business, like basically your business models, right? And how you do business. And Maestro, from a standpoint of how we built it, is we built it different than what most people focus on. And everyone's focused on data, right? Especially in SaaS world, everyone's trying to protect their moat, and data has been the 30-year model to do that. We built it on the aspects of understanding that if you do it on human interactions and how humans interact, and you're more of a broker between the business and the individual, you suddenly get out of the frameworks of how tech has been built. And what I mean by that is if you look at all of the solutions and the frameworks of the cloud titans, like I call them, of the world, or the AI overlords, everyone likes to say, joking around, but if you look at their business model, the way they've built it and they structured it, it's all about controlling data.
Sure.
And more and more data goes in, the more and more they charge. Hence why they want to own the inferencing and the large language models and convince everyone that you embed data into that.
Hmm.
Going down that route, then that forces everyone else to have to build their moat around data. And so that's where Maestro stepped out of that bounds.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. I like it. I like it. Definitely a different approach than other folks we've been speaking to lately. And very cool what you guys are doing from your position as an operator day to day. At this point, Chris, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, as everyone's probably used to the product development world, there's always fires being put out and issues being done, and pushes that need to be fixed and bugs and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot of focusing in on and removing the noise of what doesn't move the needle and what does. And I think
Love that.
the biggest thing that I think a lot of founders get stuck around is always around the biggest problem, which is cash flow, right? And money coming in and out, especially in the SaaS business, because you're obviously selling and you have a subscription model. But when it comes down to it, sometimes your priorities get lost, right? And you start focusing on really raising and thinking that's a milestone, but that's really just a mechanism to fund, to
Nice.
find financial like solutions, right? So I think my main focus in the companies has always been how do we move the product forward and get traction and momentum. But it's also how do you do this in a mass market standpoint versus a single transactional
Right.
standpoint.
Right. Yeah, that's so huge. And as the operator of the business, moving the needle forward, blocking out the noise, detaching a bit from working so much in the business and not on the business, In your opinion, Chris, what are the most important actions for a company, for a business operator, owner, entrepreneur to take and to do to keep moving that needle forward?
Well, as an owner and an operator, you 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 don't have enough resources to do every single thing that you need to get done when you're
Right.
starting up in a
Right.
small business. So most of the time I spend doing things that no one else can do, which are not always the fun things, but it
Right.
keeps the business moving, right? And
Right.
I think even though those things aren't the one things you want to do, it's also not letting those become the distraction and losing the mission or vision of what the company wants to be. Tis at the end of the day, I think sometimes things people don't think you should focus on actually are the things you should focus on. And what I'm really kind of saying is like it comes down to customer satisfaction, right? The customer experience. And I think a lot of the solutions today have been built around the tech and the tech leading. And I know it's kind of a roundabout way to answer your question, but like what I'm really getting down to is I think being able to engage with the customer and understanding what they're looking for. And what I realized in doing that, and it's the one fun thing I get to do, it comes down to everyone is telling the individual what they should do with it or how they should use it. And the tech is built from a vertical and this is what it does, right? But no one's actually stopped and asked the individual, what do they want? It's always about the business. It should be about the individual too, right? And I think that's kind of where I think a lot of the product market fit got lost. And if you look at AI, everyone's always looked at the business, but no one realized that AI's true market fit is really with the individual because of what it can do for the individual.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it's a way that you can 10x the customer client's experience by using these tools, which is massively important, kind of giving them that white glove experience, not just to your top tier clients, but to everybody all the way down, right? With that being said, Chris, I always like to ask, how have you guys had success going about acquiring clients, for lack of better words?
It's the forever battle, right? And I think what it comes down to is this is if you think of the individual, and this is what Maestro's secret sauce has been from a standpoint of how we're about to launch into the market as a mass product.
Mhm.
To give you an idea, our first client that we've captured gives us 5,000 units sold, which is a $1.75 million monthly recurring revenue, and that's profit alone. That's not including the money on top of it that's outside of
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And it's very healthy. And that's monthly recurring, not annual.
Yeah.
So
MRR. Yeah. Yeah.
from a standpoint, that's a huge sell from a first sell,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's because if you structure the product right and you think about the channels that already exist, there's ways to sell the products through the existing champions of those channels by
Hmm.
enrolling them into how the product works. And as a SaaS offering, I think it's kind of like everyone looks at it as like it's a dying industry or it's a dying like approach because of what AI can do. But
Right.
what I think they're missing is it's a dying approach for data being your moat, but it's not a dying approach for human interaction and you being a broker of it. And so if you're selling a framework that the business uses that the individual can move in and out of, now you're talking about just brokering those two within a framework. And if you look at models very similar to this, think of Apple, the iPhone, and apps, right? That's what they sold you. And so everyone's looking at AI as like a tactical, like it's got to solve a problem, but more likely, shouldn't it just be a tool that allows the human to solve the problem still, but just enable them to do it better?
Yeah. I like that. I like that. I agree. It's a great way to look at it, 100%. With that being said, Chris, what are some of the major shifts that you are seeing in the industry right now?
I think the major shifts I'm seeing is it's kind of like, and I know everyone talks about this like the dot com boom and everything else, and you look at AI is probably a bubble and so on, but I think it's because we're looking at the technology and the shift that's happening is we're letting the large OpenAI, Microsoft, AWS, the titans of the world dictate the rules of the game. And if you let them dictate the rules of the game, then you're playing within the way they make money or business models. And
Hmm.
I think one of the shifts that's coming, it's going to hit everyone hard is the companies that stepped outside of that framework. And what I mean by that is the ones who are thinking in the realm of how do I create a new market or how do I create a new segment? And everyone who's in the vertical of agents and just selling services around automation, I challenge you to ask yourself, is that truly the ROI that's really showing value, or is that the easy ROI to push because it's about now and not about the future? Because if you're automating everything, your solution in a way gets stuck in today and not delivering for what's tomorrow. And all the businesses who are adopting those, I think, are suddenly going to wake up and realize that that trend is why I'm losing.
Sure,
Because if you
sure.
automate everything and you stay stuck that way,
Yeah,
tomorrow moves, it changes.
yeah,
And if you can't put innovation into that automation, you're just surviving. You're not
yeah.
growing.
I like that innovation into automation. I like that a lot. So, with that trend you kind of just mentioned in what's kind of coming and where we're seeing companies go, how has that impacted you guys from a business and or a growth strategy perspective?
Well, back to like the distribution model, Maestro's a wholesaler. We basically we have a wholesale business model, and what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves to sell in bulk to channels who want to leverage AI, but we're allowing the channel to become, in a way, the partner in the AI journey to their customer. But because we focused on the individual and we didn't focus on selling to the channel and making their lives easier, we're actually focused on the end customer of the channel to actually show value to their customer. And that is where a lot of these solutions fall short. Because once you get to that level, it's allowed us to finally get down to what the real problems are versus the symptoms of what we believe those problems are. And it goes down to the individual. Because if you look at the tech stack of today and anything that sits in there, why do we have applications databases? Well, we have them because you have to access data, you have to drive insight, and you have to apply existing knowledge, right? And it's all done within a data schema, and that's why there's databases and so forth. But that's all because of the user interfaces has to serve it up to how that person views intelligence. Well, I come from the large integrator world. And when you look at the large integrator world, we made our killing on complexity of the
Okay.
tech stack, right?
Yeah.
And that complexity with AI is suddenly eliminated because what we're really getting down to is the ability, and OpenAI is showing this, and everyone's going to these agents. But what we're really showing ourselves is the way that applications were originally built isn't going to be the way, as you guys
Right.
as we're all
Right.
seeing.
Right.
It's literally where if an individual can build intelligence based on the data requirements they need, they built their own next evolution of an application. That becomes intelligence as a subscription. And so if your solution is only looking at the agent logic of the world, then you've missed truly solving a horizontal problem that MBA programs tell you to go vertical on, very tactical. But you're playing with almost the logic of why there's a dot AI boom that everyone's
Right.
talking about. And so the
Yeah.
systems of the future are really one one tech stack products that solves everyone's problem from an individual standpoint now that integrates together within a framework. And I think
Hmm.
that's what's giving us the success to sell in bulk, because now
Hmm.
we're able to sell to clientels who already have agreements with customers to allow them to resell it to their customers. But it's solving both sides of the fence, because the administrative side of it or the tech side of it disappears because the application can now serve up to the business need of what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense fully for sure. To look inside of your company, Maestro, two-part question here. What's working really well for you guys right now? And what's been a little bit frustrating over the past, quarter or a couple of quarters for you guys?
I think Maestro's superpower that works really well, and I'll start with that side of it,
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
fact is if you look at everyone in the world and what's going on, they're all wondering, where do I fit in? Or where's my value?
Right.
Because it's being taken.
Right.
To be honest, people are losing jobs left and right because of automation, because of a lot of the tech that probably a lot of people on this show listen to, that knows that people's roles are being automated, right? But if you think of it in a way of stepping out of my business hat, right? And the reason why we went this way is like I have kids, and I don't want them growing up in a world where basically their values been taken, right? Or their values dictated by AI telling it that you're not as smart as it, right? But but if you look at a world where collective intelligence allows for individuals to thrive within it for the contributions they put in, they get back out. Now we're talking about a world that makes more sense. One that allows for the human's imperfections to still shine. And those imperfections are what makes us all unique. And I think that superpower of that allows us to really recruit and bring in top-notch developers because they want to work on a system like that, not one that just is built to make a few people very rich, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Love that.
Um, the frustrating part of that is we're talking about a paradigm, because what we're really talking about is we're talking about a system that's built for the individual instead of the business. But indirectly, a system built for the individual is going to solve every symptom that that individual has and why they ask for those special applications or databases, because the individual knows how to do the work the best. So that frustration of how everyone's been programmed into, myself included, because I come from the big integrators, we've been so conditioned to think that we have to play within a framework of how the tech world works. But if you're willing to step out and challenge that framework, you'll be surprised that there is a lot better, more efficient way to make AI applicable to how a human uses as a tool versus how it replaces you.
What are some of those more efficient ways that we can do that? Because I think that's super powerful. As far as what we talked about back in the green room, we talked about kind of the future going, AI versus augmented intelligence. So, what are some of the ways that we can do that?
Well, if you have to look at it like this: is why do we need all this power? Why do we need data centers? Why do we need all these models? Right? If you look at the model game, it's kind of over. The foundation models are there; it's been built. And why are we training data into the models? Like, who made those rules? And if you think about it, when you build an application, come on, most of the people probably on your podcast are developers themselves, right? You don't hard code the data into an application. Why are we putting it into the model when it already has the intelligence in it from a standpoint of being able to do things? So if you repurpose how you use it to go get it and find it and be more the system components like an application is, and let the data flow fluently through it, now I don't have to train models. I'm serving. Maestro
Right.
doesn't
Right.
have to build models. We serve them. And so in essence, everyone is thinking, I need all this GPU and CPU, and I need all to raise all these rounds and everything else to get the power and the money to be able to build models. But the reality is if you just start serving them and use them as components to do things, you you suddenly have a system that isn't relying on GPU, it's more CPU.
Hmm.
And now that application is more efficient because now what you can do is you can move all of the processing to the edge to the laptops, right? And those laptops have CPU and GPU on them themselves already, and they're just getting better and better at it. So suddenly when you have that, you don't need to fall into the data center story. And then you start asking yourself, well, why is there so much investment going there? Well, how do you control a market segment, or how do you control a moat if you convince everyone they have to use your model and inferencing to do that? But if you wake up and you build a system like we're talking about how Maestro was built, now what you just did is you built something completely that attacks the direct business model of what they don't want you to do, why they don't
Yeah.
build this direction.
Right.
And that allows everyone to now suddenly keep their value versus giving it away, because what we're really talking about is now a framework where you can send scripts and rebuild the intelligence inside a framework.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. I love that approach of where you guys are coming from and keeping that value piece and keeping that human piece is a sounds like a core tenet of what Maestro is doing. So, with that being said, Chris, big picture stuff. What's next on the horizon for you guys next 6, 12 months?
Well, we have our US launch happening in November, which is our first distributor. We've already pre sold about 70,000 units of Maestro. So that will bring our monthly recurring revenue, just in the United States alone, to 24.4 million monthly recurring. And then we're launching into Europe, actually, right after that, a month later, which is just a lift and shift over because it's a distributor model. So it allows us to have that framework to quickly scale globally. So we have Europe launching about a month later, and then we have, with about similar, um, I would say similar contractual kind of like unit counts. And then we have our Asia launch and Latin America launch coming.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So a lot of big stuff on the horizon coming into different markets. For those listeners out there who maybe want to connect, follow you guys, see what you're doing, become a potential client, where can we find you? LinkedIn, social media, website, all that good stuff.
Perfect. Yep. And as well as maestro.com, and then maestrohub.com will be our Maestro mstro.ai, and then also maestrohub.com will be the marketplace of what we're talking about for intelligence as a subscription. But yeah, open to talk to anyone. I mean, what it comes down to is I'll leave you with this. What it comes down to is basically, if you look at a lot of the founders out there and everything else, when they build their dream, they get stuck into the dream, right? And you become it, and you become so passionate about it and everything else, that sometimes the dream that you have, it forces people to basically forget their dream, right? And and they're forced to kind of join the dream. And what I believe is if you can build something that that your dream's in it, but you allow someone to dream within it too, now it's something crazy and cool, because now you really have that collectiveness with humans, and that's the fun part, is the interactions, right? And
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think that's something that people need to be able to do. And Maestro was built from the standpoint of every solution out there today and models that are done, we're agnostic. They plug right into it. So we've never let anyone fall to the wayside. We're just providing a way for the individual to now have a seat back at the table. Let's put it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. I love that, man. Dream within it. That's a great slogan tagline there at Maestro. And you guys are doing some great things, Chris. And it's been a great conversation, man. A lot of valuable insights as we navigate into this. Let's call it still a new frontier for a lot of us out there, a lot of folks out there. And we appreciate you for coming on and sharing these valuable insights. I'm sure our listeners will definitely get some great takeaways from it. And thanks so much, man. That's it, guys, for today on the Pipeline Power Podcast. We will see everybody next time. Later.
Thanks, Alice.